Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Shahriar Alam, MP, Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Government of Bangladesh, His Excellency Dr. Francisco Andre, State Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, Republic of Portugal, Mr. Shabir Ahmad Chaudhry, Secretary West Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Major General Sheikh Pasha Habibuddin, Director General of BIS, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very warm welcome to all of you, and also our warm welcome to our participants who joined us virtually. As we've already stated, we are gathered here today, and I'm very, very grateful to such a large audience to have gathered this Friday morning. To our eminent persons lecture series on the topic of Bangladesh-Portugal relation quest for deeper cooperation. Before I proceed further, I would like to pay my tribute and homage to the memory of the father of the nation, the greatest Bengali of all time, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I also pay my tribute to members of his Shaheed members of his family, and to 3 million martyrs, 400,000 girls and women who sacrificed their life for the nation. We are very, very pleased and honored to have amongst us Mr. Dr. Francisco Andre, who will be speaking to us shortly. But at the same time, gratitude to the Honorable State Minister for having graced this occasion as the chief guest. But before I proceed further, may I request our Director General, Major General Sheikh Pasha Habibuddin, to kindly deliver his welcome remarks.
Thank you, respected Chair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Respected guest speaker of today's eminent person lecture, His Excellency Dr. Francisco Andre, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, Republic of Portugal. Respected Chief Guest, Mr. Mohammad Shahriar Alam MP, Honorable State Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Respected Chairman of BIS and today's Chair, Ambassador Qazi Imtiaz Hussain, PAA. Learned discussant, Ambassador Shabir Ahmed Chaudhry, Secretary West, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Excellencies, distinguished guests, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good morning to you all. On behalf of Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, I welcome you all to today's eminent person lecture. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Dr. Francisco Andre for his gracious presence in today's event as guest speaker. At the outset, please allow me to pay my deepest tribute to the memory of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and to all martyrs who made their supreme sacrifice during our war of liberation. Distinguished guests, it is indeed a great pleasure to recall the historic bondage between Bangladesh and Portugal. In the early 16th century, Dr. Juan de Silveira traveled to eastern part of Bengal, now Bangladesh, in 1516, which was 18 years before Vasco da Gama reached India. Such historic ties, legacies of Portuguese culture and its influence, even in the culinary tradition, are still vivid. And after our independence, Portugal was one of the pioneers to recognize our independence. Since then, the two nations have enjoyed cordial and mutually beneficial bilateral relations. As regards to trade relations, Bangladesh is gradually improving its trade with Portugal. According to Bangladesh Export Promotion Bureau, in the financial year 2020-21, Bangladesh exported goods to Portugal worth $76 million. And in the following year, it increased to 105 million US dollars. Both countries are currently working to establish direct shipping links to create new prospects for first, cost-effective and reliable shipping for Bangladesh exporters. Very recently, both countries have agreed to sign an agreement to avoid double taxation and fiscal evasion in an effort to smoothen their commercial ties. A formal agreement in this regard is expected to be inked very shortly. And to further ease the trade relations, there is a future plan for making an MOU between the Export Promotion Bureau of Bangladesh and Agency of Investment and Foreign Trade of Portugal. However, there is much room for advancement in the current economic relationship, since both countries have considerable potential to increase the trade ties. Ladies and gentlemen, in the case of work-related migration, after the United Kingdom and Italy, Portugal is home to a sizable Bangladeshi diaspora who have been integrated into several Portuguese cities over the past decades. In some of the Portuguese cities, Bangladeshi community stands at the forefront. Even a street is commonly referred to as Bangla Town in central Mauraria in Lisbon. According to Portuguese immigration authorities, around 10,000 Bangladeshis with valid residency permit are currently residing in several Portuguese cities. Aside from migrants, many Bangladeshi students pursue their studies in Portugal. However, a full-fledged Portuguese embassy in Bangladesh can further assist the smooth flow of workers and facilitate Bangladeshi students enrolling in Portuguese universities. Adapting to climate change is another area where Bangladesh and Portugal can work together. Being coastal countries, both Bangladesh and Portugal face common existential threat from climate change and sea level rise. In regard to exploring seabed resources, two countries have ample potential for boosting partnership in knowledge sharing and cooperation in the areas of oceanography and maritime affairs. However, there is future plan for signing an MOU between Bangladesh Maritime University and Algarve University on marine science. There is also a plan of signing MOU between Chittagong Port Authority and Port of Lexios of Portugal. We hope that the planned MOUs would be able to further strengthen the relationship in the field of maritime affairs. Learned participants, as Bangladesh is experiencing remarkable economic growth and continued amicable relations with its neighbors and beyond, it can offer a promising frontier to Portugal. We can explore possibilities of expanding cooperation in diverse areas spanning renewable energy, green transition, marine technology, blue economy, and climate change. Therefore, it is time for both the countries to further bilateral relations to a productive partnership where two countries can cooperate meaningfully. To that end, I hope today's guest speaker will discuss the outlook of Bangladesh-Portugal relations and provide some insight on how best we can deepen our current bilateral ties. Finally, again, I express my gratitude to the Honorable Chief Guest, respected guest speaker, our today's discussant, and the learned audience for encouraging us with your kind participation. I expect this event will generate some effective discussion on this matter. Thank you all. Joy Bangla.
Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Shahriar Alam, His Excellency Dr. Francis Dr. Francisco Andres, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Before I request our special guest to deliver his statement, a couple of points to bring to your attention, and something that this lecture will generate interest in terms of looking at the prospects that the two countries hold. Our historical link is very clearly spelled out by our Director General at the very beginning of his statement. It dates back to 16th century. Over the last 48 years since we established bilateral relations, our partnership has grown. One of the very strong link that we have is through the EU platform. Portugal, being a very important country in the EU, has been supportive of Bangladesh. As we graduate to low middle income country, and as we move out of the LDC, the support of the EU friends would be very significant. Bangladesh being a country hugely dependent on export, the duty facilities and had been instrumental in moving our global export to a great heights. One of the things I'm sure our guest speaker will cover, how Portugal can be one of a strong partner as we seek to receive the GSP Plus facility under the new EU regulation. Our strong linkage is also very clear with the presence of a strong Bangladeshi diaspora in Portugal, which has been growing. And as before we entered the room, we were discussing how the Portuguese outlook towards the whole world has been instrumental in its outlook for the foreign residents in the country, and that perhaps is a very strong link between people of the two countries. The potentials are there. The Director General has clearly spelled out the platforms and the processes that we are undertaking in terms of creating a direct shipping linkage, creating platform for business to business engagement, creating the framework for avoidance of double taxations and things like that. So in this next hour or so, we will explore the huge potential that our two countries have. And I'm sure our distinguished guest, Dr. Francisco Andre, will not only throw a light on that, but also guide us how we can further strengthen our relation and cooperation, not only in area of trade, but also on many global issues which we have a common views on, issues of human rights, on issues of democracy, on issue of climate change, the vulnerabilities of the climate vulnerable countries in economic and investment arena. But with those few words, I would like to invite, and I'm very pleased to invite our chief guest, our special guest, Dr. Andre Francisco, to kindly take the floor and deliver his statement. You have the floor, sir.
Good morning, Your Excellency, State Minister Shahriar Alam. We cannot stop meeting each other. General Sheikh Pashauddin, Director General of the Bangladesh Institute for International and Strategic Studies, Mr. Fayaz Murshid Kazi, Director General for West Europe and European Union at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Kazi Imitsiats, Chairman of the Bangladesh Institute for International and Strategic Studies, Mr. Hossein Shakamat, Honorary Consul of Portugal in Bangladesh, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here at the Bangladesh Institute for International and Strategic Studies during my first visit to Bangladesh, the first of many, I hope. We had the pleasure to welcome in Portugal earlier this year two important high-level visitors from Bangladesh and their respective delegations. His Excellency, State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Shahriar Alam, was in Lisbon in May for a very productive meeting. And also in late June, early July, His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abdul Momen, participated in the second United Nations Ocean Conference that Portugal co-hosted with the government of Kenya. We take pride in the success of this second UN Ocean Conference, which occurred at a critical juncture for our planet, a time when we were seeking to address many of the deep-rooted problems of our societies laid by the COVID-19 pandemic. The role of the ocean in both mitigating climate change and helping communities adapt to its consequences was front and center at the UN Ocean Conference that was held in Lisbon. Also, there was strong cohesion across countries and stakeholders to move the ocean climate agenda forward. And this is quite meaningful for both Bangladesh and Portugal. This effort is being continued at the Sharm el-Sheikh Climate Change Conference, the COP27, which is set to conclude today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the relationship between Portugal and Bangladesh is currently going through a very positive moment, and we intend to keep it that way. The Portuguese, as it was said here this morning, were the first Europeans to arrive not only in Bengal, but also in Dhaka. We have a long historical connections since the first Portuguese arrived at Chittagong more than 500 years ago. The travels to East that brought the Portuguese to the shores of Bangladesh strongly contributed to the intensification of South Asian heritage in the history of Portugal. Much have changed since then. The end of the Liberation War and the independence of Bangladesh led the country into a remarkable cycle in the economic, political, and cultural life of this country. Bangladesh conquered its future and was able in the last decades to overcome challenges, break barriers, and make crucial democratic achievements. Bangladesh has achieved an impressive economic and social progress over the last 5 decades, building a modern economy, and it is a country well inserted in the multilateral scene, a member of important global and regional organizations. The bond between our two countries is not only historic, but also contemporary and dynamic, aiming to look in the future and to take our bilateral relationship to a higher level. And that's why I'm here today, to look at the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Portugal and Bangladesh established diplomatic relations in 1974. So in 2 years, we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary. My presence yesterday for our second political consultation that took place yesterday at the highest level 4 years after the first round of these consultations is a strong step in elevating our relationship to a higher standard. As we look to the future, we need to seize the opportunity to expand our relations to areas that can reach their full potential, for instance, reinforcing trade, developing the energy, agri-food sector, or promoting public transport. These can be common goals for our countries to explore together, considering that we have shared challenges and different experiences in dealing with them. Bangladesh has been accomplishing remarkable results over the last decades, not only economically, but mainly because it has significantly improved quality of life of its citizens, as expressed through social indicators and reduced poverty levels. A trademark that is leading this country to graduate from the United Nations Least Developed Countries list in 2026. And it is indeed an outstanding milestone. In Portugal, we are currently finalizing the approval of the Portuguese Cooperation Strategy 2030, which gives a strong emphasis to the importance of gender equality and women's empowerment, a very important priority to ensure that is a clear path to achieve development. A country is not truly developed if its women are not properly heard and cannot aspire to take their place in society. Our cooperation strategy will also focus on important sectors for both our countries, such as education, health, good governance, and climate change, apart from promoting partnerships with the private sector and the civil society where we can work together. Dear guests, I must also take this opportunity to recognize the bilateral relationship between our two countries is strengthened every day by the presence of the Bangladeshi community in Portugal. We are proud to host more than 10,000 Bangladeshi citizens, a vibrant community of hardworking men and women that is fully integrated in our society. That gives also a valuable contribution to the development of our country. Like Bangladesh, Portugal has a large diaspora living all over the world. People that also residing overseas maintain their Portuguese roots alive and contribute to the growth of Portugal and the host country. This is why we optimistically hope that the younger generation, our also younger generation, develop as the Bangladeshi younger generation even further their entrepreneurial spirit, energizing not only internal commerce but also international trade, contributing to bringing our countries closer together. As Bangladesh, Portugal has also been a champion country of the Global Migration Compact and as an advocate of safe, orderly, and regular migration. We believe in respecting, protecting, and fulfilling the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all migrants and in their important contribution to sustainable development. In that regard, I must also say that we are aware of the constraints that Bangladeshi nationals face regarding mobility to our country. And it is in that in view that we have made significant improvements in our laws and regulations and also in our embassy, in the Embassy of Portugal in New Delhi. And we are strongly considering, as we discussed yesterday, the possibility of opening a Portuguese consular office here in Dhaka to make life easier for Bangladeshi citizens that want to go and live in Portugal. And I cannot think of a better way to celebrate our 50 years of diplomatic relations than with this action. We are also very much determined to further expand our ties regarding the growing interest towards the learning of Portuguese. Our Language and Development Agency, Camões Institute, has recently, in last August, signed an agreement with Dhaka University to promote Portuguese language and culture. And the Institute of Modern Languages of Dhaka University is now a partner that will contribute to making our language and culture more identifiable and recognized in Bangladesh, a concrete step that will bring our countries and our people closer. Ladies and gentlemen, I must also take this opportunity to stress our appreciation for the agreement between the European Union and Bangladesh to intensify cooperation on climate action, digitalization, connectivity, and security, taking into account the European Union strategy for the cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. Portugal, as you know, is a strong supporter of multilateralism and a defender of international peace and security. We are currently running as a candidate to a non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council for the 2027-2028 mandate. In our previous mandates in the United Nations Security Council, we always try to be constructive and pragmatic, building bridges between different continents and actors, as we have done throughout our history. We believe we can make a positive contribution for the work of the United Nations Security Council yet again. For example, we share Bangladesh's views that the Security Council should reflect the geopolitical realities of the 21st century, and we are willing to discuss the extension of both permanent and non-permanent members. It is essential to increase the representation of Africa, Latin America, and Asia, including small island developing states in the Security Council. The geopolitical reality today calls for a change. We need to discuss a different balance. Unfortunately, there are several conflicts in place, and the war in Europe is raging after the unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine and its bluntly illegal attempt to annex Ukrainian regions, a flagrant and deliberate violation of the Charter of the United Nations. Our joint efforts in the United Nations have proved to be fruitful, and this is the only way possible to have a reliable and trustworthy partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, let me say that Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Given the actual strength of Bangladeshi business environment, there is enough room to deepen the engagement between our countries in many sectors, namely by improving our commercial and trade exchanges. Not only we must think about the past and the present, but we should look onto the horizon. Bangladesh is one of the most populated countries in the world, with a steady population growth and booming economy, a country filled with potential that we together must take advantage for mutual benefit. The commemorations of the 50 years of diplomatic relations in 2024 will be an important mark in the history of both our countries. This journey started 500 years ago. Today, Bangladesh plays an important role in the world. It's an important member of the global network of partnerships in a region of the world that is at the center of the international agenda and the post-pandemic recovery. Our nations enjoy a solid basis to grow these existing ties. Our people-to-people connections are vibrant and invite us to enhance our partnership and realize the great potential of our relationship. We are looking forward to continue this journey and to be, as always, more connected and more resilient, always together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Francisco Andre, as the Honorable State Minister just noted, for a very, very comprehensive statement, which has not only outlined the future direction of our partnership, but also has given us a new hope for building up people-to-people contact. A very welcome step towards your physical presence through your consular mission in resident mission in Dhaka, and we convey our deepest appreciation for the decision to have a consular office. At this point of time, I would also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Shakhawat Hussain, the Honorary Consul of Portugal in Bangladesh. Now I would turn to our discussant for today's lecture series, Ambassador Shabir Ahmed Chaudhry, and I would request him to kindly take the floor to make his remarks. Ambassador Chaudhry, you have the floor.
The chief guest of today's event, His Excellency Mr. Shahrial Alam MP, Honorable State Minister for Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. Guest speaker, His Excellency Dr. Francisco Andre, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of the Republic of Portugal. Ambassador Kazi Imtiaz Hussain, PAA, Chairman of BIISS. Major General Sheikh Pasha Habibuddin, Director General of BIISS. Ambassadors, High Commissioners, Honorary Consul, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. At the outset, I'd like to express my profound homage to the greatest Bengali of all times, father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I pray to Almighty Allah so that He grants him Jannatul Firdaus, the highest honor in the eternal life hereafter. In fact, I feel honored and delighted to be part of this important event today. I think His Excellency Dr. Francisco Andre has covered almost all the areas of bilateral cooperation between Bangladesh and Portugal. So I shall try to skip the repetitions for the sake of time and just highlight on the points which have not been covered. Ladies and gentlemen, the first contact between the Bengalis and the Portuguese started about 500,000 years ago. Dr. Johan de Silveira was the first Portuguese to commandeer an expedition to the then East Bengal, that is the present Bangladesh, in the year 1516. The Portuguese traders settled in Chattogram during the 16th century. Though most of them left a century later, some of them settled there and their descendants are living in the old parts of the city. The culture among the people of Dhaka and Chattogram have been largely influenced by the Portuguese traders. Bengali language has acquired around 1,500 Portuguese words. In fact, I know only three of them, Janala, Kedara, which is chair, and Baranda. The Portuguese scholar Antonio Mascarenhas Assumpção compiled for the first time the rules of Bengali grammar in the 18th century. The Portuguese missionaries were the forerunners in expanding Christianity in Bangladesh. Portuguese names are common with the Christian community residing mainly in Dhaka and Chattogram. The Gulbenkian Foundation, a Portuguese institution, undertook restoration work for the 17th century Portuguese church called the Saint Rosary Church in Tezgah, Dhaka. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, though the political relation between Bangladesh and Portugal is good, the other areas of cooperation between the two friendly countries need to be enhanced to attain a satisfactory level. There has been no visit as yet between the heads of states or heads of governments of the two friendly countries. The bilateral visits at the levels of ministers and senior officials started only a few years ago. We believe that exchanges of visits at various levels will augment the identified areas of cooperation and also offer opportunities to explore more areas of cooperation. As a gesture of Bangladesh's commitment to elevate its relationship with Portugal, Bangladesh established its resident mission in Lisbon in July 2012. Moreover, in order to further consolidate such relations, Bangladesh purchased a permanent property in Lisbon and shifted the embassy there into December 2020. We hope that Portugal will also reciprocate this gesture by considering opening its resident diplomatic or consular post in Dhaka. Respected audience, it is heartening to note that the second political consultation between Bangladesh and Portugal was held yesterday, where the entire gamut of relations between the two countries was discussed. Since our relations in the various areas of cooperation are yet to attain complacency, we hope that the next consultations will be held more frequently, preferably once a year without procrastination. It may be recalled that in ancient times, trade was the motivating factor that brought the Bengalis and the Portuguese in contact. Enhanced trade can no doubt forge the relationship between our two friendly countries. In the financial year 2021, Bangladesh exported to Portugal goods of US $75.97 million and imported from Portugal goods of US $12.1 million. These figures are almost insignificant with respect to the total trade volume of Bangladesh. There is no doubt that there are ample scopes to enhance this figure. We are yet to sign the agreement on avoidance of double taxation between the two countries. We hope that conclusion of the agreement will enable us to increase the trade volume. We seek longer time for Portuguese support for continued preferential market access for Bangladesh in the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh has made significant progress in digitalization and ICT sector. We have developed a pool of human resources in the ICT sector and has taken up a massive program of establishing high-tech park in the country. Portugal is also a popular destination for ICT companies. We look forward to cooperation with Portugal in the ICT sector. Portugal is one of the leading countries in the world in renewable energy. It is heartening to know that 60% of Portugal's electricity comes from renewable sources of energy. In this unfortunate time of energy crisis, we need renewable energy. Renewable energy is badly felt. Bangladesh seeks to increase the share of renewable energy in the energy combination of the country. We seek the support and cooperation from Portugal in this regard. Now, I'd like to very briefly cover two more points. One is our diaspora. You all know that Bangladesh has now focused on skilled labor, which means that both in terms in linguistic as well as in the professional level. We are trying to increase the level of their skill so that they can work abroad without taking resort to any informal means. So I'd like to request His Excellency to consider taking more Bangladeshis in Portugal, and I'm sure that they have a demand for that. The other is the Rohingya issue. You know that it has been more than 5 years that this huge influx of the Rohingya, and not a single Rohingya has been, we have not been able to repatriate a single Rohingya, and we all know the reasons. So we'd like to request the Portuguese government to extend their support and cooperation both in their own capacity as well as in the European Union forum. We know that Portugal is a very important player in the European Union, so we look forward to their support and cooperation. So I wish the delegation a successful assignment here and a pleasant stay, and long live Bangladesh-Portugal friendship. Thank you very much. Muito obrigada.
Thank you, Ambassador Chaudhary. Muito obrigada. Well, thank you. No. But one certainly encouraging point is that the focus and greater attention is now being paid not only the professional skill development but also linguistic. And I'm sure with the cooperation and understanding that the Secretary of State had mentioned about arrangement with Dhaka University for linguistic development and skill on linguistic front. I think we will see more Portuguese-speaking Bangladeshis landing not only in Portugal but in elsewhere also. We now have almost half an hour, a little less than that, to have a discussion, an interaction with Dr. Andre, and I would open the floor for your questions and comments. And my request to you would be twofold. Two specifically. One, very briefly introduce yourself and limit to your questions to 1.5 minutes. Yes, Mr. Salahuddin, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. This is Salahuddin Ahmed. I was a member of Bangladesh Energy Regulatory Commission, and I was a banker. I taught at the universities, and I was also a television news host and also on the radio. Thank you very much again. I was wondering, Ambassador, His Excellency, Mr. Chaudhary, as was mentioning about a few words, the janala. Janala is the window. If we have brought it from Portugal, the window speaks of a very strong opening and maintaining of relationships of two wonderful neighbors. If we open the janala, that's the window, we become responsible and, as I said, wonderful neighbors. Two areas, renewable energy and linguistics and culture that Excellency Andre mentioned about. If we make our cooperation of renewable energy operations activities more, that will give us light, more light. And if we activate the IML, Institute of Modern Languages of Dhaka University, and that will surely provide us more enlightenment. I'll be hopeful of doing much more on these two areas particularly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, gentlemen, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Excellency, for delivering your deep and very, what should I say, commendable lecture. and certainly this will deepen the relationship between Bangladesh and Portugal. I am Brigadier General Shams. I go for the research of Rohingya, Myanmar, and Asian affairs. So my interest will concentrate on Rohingya crisis. So how Portugal is planning to contribute in solving these Rohingya issues in future? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You have.
Well, Mr. Chair, just to add on what has been said so far, we do remember that the Portuguese missionaries came to this part of the world with printing facilities. They not only helped modernize Bangla language, they also helped in propagating Bangla language in the modern state that it is now. About 5 years back, I had been to Lisboa and met cross-section of Bangladeshi expatriates, and I found they're very satisfied with the environment prevailing in the host country. Now, another issue is that since we are, I look after a British charity dealing with elderly people, and we are also planning to send our caregivers this country and other countries. So is there any scope of Portugal getting in our list of receiving caregivers from Bangladesh, sir?
Thank you very much. I'll take one more question, yes, sir, before I request the special guest to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. This is Cornel Iftekhar, former research director of this institute. My question to our today's chief guest, Dr. Francis Andre. Excellency, thank you very much for traveling all the way from Lisbon to Dhaka. It's a great opportunity for us to meet with you. Excellency, Bangladesh has a strong garments market. It's over $50 billion market. And I can see your country has also a big market of over $6 billion in apparel sector. Current apparel export from Bangladesh is not more than 200 or 250 million US dollar. So my request is there any opportunity for making more businessmen to travel to Dhaka so that we can grow this? Definitely this is in this area, more business. And my next question is there any plan you have for extending some opportunities for Bangladeshi students to study in Lisbon through scholarship programs? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Ambassador. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the questions and comments, especially for the warm words towards Portugal, towards this visit here today. Let me start by, well, I will try to follow the order and to provide as much information as possible. When it concerns energy, as we discussed yesterday during our meeting, energy is quite a sensitive issue right now. It was before we cannot forget that before the pandemic, we were dealing with the biggest emergency that we had ahead of us, which was climate change and the climate emergency. That didn't change despite the pandemic, despite the war in Europe, that didn't change at all. So it's urgent to deal and to tackle this issue for the climate reasons that we all know, and now because we are living an energy crisis. So this energy crisis that we are living now forces us to do two things: to anticipate everything that were targets established by every country, and also to be more ambitious in terms of our agenda concerning energy. As it was mentioned here today, we started our program of renewable energies some years ago, around 20 years ago, I must say, which allowed us today, when most of the European countries are facing and are struggling with the consequences of this energy crisis, such as Portugal, we are in a different position. For instance, when it comes to electricity, 60% of the electricity consumed in Portugal comes from renewable energy sources. And we just announced at the COP27 our objective to increase this number from 60 to 80% until 2024. So we have experience and we have ambition, such as Bangladesh. Lots of experience. What Bangladesh achieved in the last years It's really remarkable in terms of energy, but we know that lies ahead of us a huge challenge. What we propose, what we can do is to work together, is to share knowledge. We use different sources of renewable energies in Portugal, such as wind, solar, and hydro. So what we can do together right now is share knowledge, share experience, work together, see if we can learn from the examples what has been done here in Bangladesh, and also to see if what we have been doing in Portugal can also be applied here in Bangladesh. And in this, of course, help to develop new systems, more energy production capacity, clean energy, and also to do an important thing, to generate more opportunities for our companies, our researchers, our institutions in both countries. And I think that this is a particular area where we can do a lot of work together in the near future. You also mentioned the language and Portuguese language and culture here in Bangladesh, but I should add also the Bangladeshi culture that we should know more in Portugal. These cultural ties between the two countries are very important and are I think the best links to our citizens. As well, the more we know about Bangladesh in Portugal, the more in Bangladesh people know about Portugal, you bring our people closer. And I think that we all know for experience that when we have more knowledge, when we are more close in terms of culture, not only language, when we know more about each other, we feel better about each other, and this also generates better ties between countries, and definitely this will bring more economic opportunities, more synergies, more, as someone said about the word janela, window, more windows of opportunity for us to work together and to bring our businessmen and businesswomen communities to work together and generate more profit, more employment, and more welfare to both our citizens. On the Rohingya crisis, on this we support, first of all, we are complete solidarity with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is facing the consequences of the current situation in Myanmar, which is an unacceptable situation with total disrespect of human rights, with total disrespect for the principles and values that both of our countries share. And Bangladesh is facing the consequences and the burden of this crisis. So what we do is staying side by side with Bangladesh and express solidarity, not only in our capacity as a country, in the standards of our bilateral relation, but also as a member of the European Union. The European Union not only condemns the situation in Myanmar, but it has been supporting Bangladesh facing this burden politically and also financially, as you all know. What we will do is to continue our efforts inside the European Union to continue and to pursue this objective, to work with Bangladesh, to do our best to assist Bangladesh to overcome this difficult situation. Next December, we will have the next European Union Asian Summit, an excellent opportunity to get back to this subject, to discuss and to see what we can do more, not only as two countries, but as two important blocks of countries that regard the situation in Myanmar with close attention. Let me tell you also that coming from a country which has been dealing with migration crisis, not only migration crisis and refugees crisis, year after year, we have been facing consecutive crises in Europe due to the unfortunate events, wars and conflicts around our borders in recent years. Just to give you an example, since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, we welcomed in only these months more than 50,000 Ukrainian refugees in Portugal, many of them women and children that are already attending our Portuguese schools, studying both in the Portuguese system and also in the Ukrainian scholar system. But to tell you one thing, that in our view, no country alone will find a solution for a crisis like this. It is very important to involve and to have a solution that involves every country in the region, and Bangladesh should not be left standing alone facing this crisis. It is very important to involve all the partners in the region. Concerning the Bangladeshi community in Portugal, let me repeat once again, we are very proud of the Bangladeshi community in Portugal. An amazing diaspora, as I said, are working men and women, many of them that started years ago as employees in different sectors of our economy, and today successful businessmen and businesswomen in diversified sectors of our activity. And we are proud of that community, and more than proud, we are also thankful of the contribution of your community to the development of our country and to the economy of our country. About the possibility of Portugal to be part of that list of the charity, this I will have to study, and we can discuss after this conference and meeting. On the economic cooperation on several sectors, and namely on the textile sector, both of our countries have a strong reputation in this sector. So this is why, yes, I think there's a path that we can pursue together. And for this, it's important to, as soon as possible, have a platform for dialogue between the economic communities of both our countries, specifically in this sector. And I think that this is what we as diplomats will do in the coming months. About the Bangladeshi students in Lisbon and the possibility to increase this, yes, tell you that first of all, we have already a significant number of Bangladeshi students in Portuguese universities. And we are very much welcoming the possibility of increase this number. Many of these students today are in Portugal under the framework of an European agreement program called Erasmus Mundi. And we also discussed yesterday the possibility of not only through this program, but also through bilateral programs and projects to host more students from Bangladesh in our universities. As I said at the beginning of my answers, as the more we know about each other, the more we share with each other, the more stronger will be our friendship, and better will be the results both for our citizens, economies, and also better will be our political and diplomatic results. So we are willing to do that. It's necessary to have more students there, but also to have, and I want to underline this, it's very important to have more presence of the Portuguese culture also here in Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will turn to you one after another. I have a request already made from Mr. Shamim Noman, Secretary General of BIRA. I think if you would kindly take the floor, and then followed by you will introduce. I'll give you the floor first, then you, and finally to you, sir. Yes, Mr. Noman, you have. Thank you very much. Yes, sir, you have.
Sir, thank you, sir. I am Brigadier General Izaz, former Defense Advisor of Bangladesh High Commission. Thank you very much, Excellency. I would like to touch upon 3 points for your kind consideration. One is our ties and cooperation in tourism sector. We know that your country is very beautiful, so is our country. So we would like to visit each other, and which will increase the people's contact. And for that, the visa process has to be easier. Number two is, Excellency, whether we can promote our relationship in the defense sector. We have a good, strong defense forces. We can have cooperation with you in terms of training and bilateral relationship, exchange of visits. And the third one, not last but not least, the Cristiano Ronaldo, the famous football player leading the Portuguese team. There are many supporters in our country. So we can promote the sports diplomacy also. Having some friendly matches, people-to-people contact will immensely increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Shahadat, and my field of work is related to the promotion of China-Bangladesh relations, and particularly promoting the language of both the countries. Here, I would like to suggest two specific points which I observed in last 15 years, experienced by myself. Yes, the language that was done long before, exactly at the Institute of Modern Language. So I think it is absolutely at the very right steps taken. But when the governments are setting the platform to promote the overall relationship between two countries, what I experienced that people's to people's contact is also equally important to boost up government's efforts. China did it very successfully. There were a series of Chinese delegations visiting at personal level, even being headed by vice ministers. Like I may quote, on 26th November 2015.
If you can,
At delegation,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, if you can limit your question only.
I have
we have
specific suggestion that
please.
delegations, the educational sector, business sectors, they should visit both the countries as B2B business delegations. And the second is, if we can establish a small-scale training and coordination centers at both the capitals, where people will be able to know the ongoing process, how government has done it. So one is training and coordination center, and to increase the people's to people's delegation visits. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll turn to our special guest for his response, and with that, we'll come to the end of our discussions. Sorry, sir. I'll take my mistake. John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, very much indeed for this opportunity. I'm Amsa Amin, former general and ambassador. Excellency, Dr. Francisco, bem-vindo, following Ambassador Shahab. Very hearty welcome. I'm probably meeting for the first time in my whole life and career, the first Portuguese diplomat. Really very happy. I'm happy that our Honorable State Minister of Foreign Affairs has been there, connected with you. Good work, Minister. Talking historically, you all know about Admiral Alfred Mahan. Anyone who rules the waves rules the world. You did that. And now I see your navy is very small. Though small, you have 19 submarines, according to Wikipedia. That is another window to which at least our Navy should look at and find some cooperation. Now, talking about your history, I think we Bengalis have a great lesson to learn. You have been a great nation of explorers. Vasco da Gama discovered India all the way from there. And in 1500, what were we and what were you? Bengal Sultanate had a population of over 10 million. And your population then was only 3 million. But then you were here. But we could never think of going there. So this is a lesson learned. And I'm very happy that a small nation like Portugal is connecting with another small nation like Bangladesh. And I think we have a lot to mutually cooperate and develop. Being small, together can be big. Now, I want you to take this message, all that you have heard here. In Portuguese, I say, our level of relationship is muito pouco.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you very much for your question and comment. May I now turn to our special guest to kindly respond to the question raised.
Thank you, Ambassador. I will try to follow the order once again. First question, more opportunities for Bangladeshi workers in Portugal and in which sectors? Like I said, coming here, it is also recognition of the Bangladeshi community in Portugal, of their valuable contribution to the development of our country, to the success of that community, and to the excellent level of integration in Portugal. Portugal is known as an open country with cultural diversity, as you all know. We have always a strong diaspora around the world, and we like to welcome everyone at our house. When I said that in order to better celebrate, to fully celebrate the 50 years of our diplomatic relations that we are studying the possibility of in the near future, until then, and I hope that we can do it as soon as possible together with the authorities of Bangladesh to open a consular office here in Dhaka. This means that, of course, that we are open to have more workers from Bangladesh coming to our country if they wish to do so, and to work on every sector of our economy. Do not be mistaken. The opportunities in Portugal for workers are in all sectors and for all kinds of skills of workers. So do not be mistaken. We are an open country to everyone, whether to work at the agri-food sector or IT sector, in health sector. We are an open and welcoming country to everyone. Secondly, on the tourism and the question of visas, this is why we need to also to improve our representation here, to allow and to make life easier for all Bangladeshi citizens, not only the ones that want to come and live in Portugal, which we praise, but also to the ones that we very much welcome, that come to discover our country and to do tourism in Portugal. This is very important, something that we should do on both ways, also to get more knowledge of Bangladesh in Portugal to attract more tourists from our country. Area also where, as you rightly mentioned, we have lots of experience. So it's also an area where we can develop mechanisms of cooperation to share all the knowledge that we have. Tourism sector is a key area of the Portuguese economy. And of course, that we should work more on the defense sector, in the Navy, but overall in the defense sector. And I think that there is much room of maneuver for discussions between the authorities of our countries on that. On the sports diplomacy, yes, and Cristiano Ronaldo, you are completely right. And this links always with this also links with the last question of the people-to-people contact. Sports diplomacy is a specific kind of diplomacy that we must support and that we must cherish. It's what is a field bringing everyone together, is a peaceful mechanism to bring our citizens and our countries together. And this is something that we should explore more. I know about growing interests in this country about football. We are known for the football, not for much more in terms of sports. We are good in every kind of sport, but football is, in fact, the masterpiece in terms of sports in Portugal, and this is something that we should deepen, and will also help, of course, the people-to-people contact. Thank you for the comments, more than the question, for the comments. It's quite obvious that we should increase the relation between our two countries. Let me say once again, let me tell you that we know that the relationship between our two countries is still, as you said, poco, only a bit in English. We need to increase, to improve, to be more present, to visit each other more frequently. But on this, let me tell you that we are in fact living a very special moment. 3 visits in less than 6 months, more possible visits to occur in the near future, growing interest by the authorities of both our countries, and this, I don't think that this ever happened in the history and on the diplomatic relations of our countries. So we are living a very special moment, and this is why both me and State Minister, we decided to keep this effort, maintain the pressure on our public administration to work more and to work together, to finish all these legal instruments that we can sign in a next visit. Let me tell you that this relationship between Portugal and Bangladesh, a flourishing one, with your embassy also in Lisbon, wouldn't be possible, of course, without the personal input and the personal participation of the main actors. And I would like to take the opportunity before concluding to thank State Minister Shahriar Alam. Since that we met the first time, we saw the window, the janela of opportunity to cooperate more, to bring our countries closer, our citizens closer, and we didn't stop working since then. And this is why I say that the importance of this visit today to Bangladesh is only by a very specific reason, because it must be the first of many to come, of much more exchanges between our two countries, to have a stronger relation, to have a bigger diaspora and a more successful diaspora in both our countries, and to develop this relation between our citizens and between our companies, which is the best way to be mutually beneficial to our two countries. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andre, for your very candid, frank, and very clear response to number of questions, and which has provided a great outlook for our partnership in the coming years. That is something which is most important, and we look forward to even greater and robust partnership in the coming years. Thank you very much for that. May I now have the honor and pleasure to request the Honorable State Minister, Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Shahriar Alam, MP, to kindly deliver his statement. So you have the floor.
Thank you. I've decided to remain lazy and blame those boomers, so that journalists don't need to move there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, BIISS, and a person at the center of today's event, His Excellency Dr. Francisco Andre, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Portugal. Director General BIISS, congratulations, Major General Pasha, Sheikh Habib Pashauddin, for his appointment, even though it's all a bit late, but of course we have been known to each other, and very happy to see a fellow IB alumni is now the DG of BIISS. Distinguished guests, excellencies, friends from the media, very good morning and assalamu alaikum. And it's truly an honor and privilege to come back to BIISS, and I express my gratitude to the chairman and relatively new DG and His Excellency the Minister and all the audience present here today, especially considering the fact that it's actually weekend and it's not very easy to get up and running at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock on a Friday morning. And so that's the level of commitment from everyone present in this room, including friends from the media who is eager to cover this event. Of course, I had the opportunity to share our own thoughts and how to take the relationship forward during my bilateral visit in Portugal early this year. And a similar event like this was held on 27th May at a place called Macau Scientific and Cultural Center in Lisbon, and where Dr. Andre was kindly present. I shall therefore not necessarily repeat what I said there, but I would, however, reiterate our profound gratitude to Dr. Andre for following up on his commitment. And as we were saying while waiting at Chairman's or DG's office, that in the same calendar year, we have actually exchanged 3 visits, and the year is not end yet, you know. So that's fantastic. And the very constructive dialogue that we had yesterday till pretty late during our second Foreign Office consultation. So once again, sincere gratitude. I guess we both realize once again that in diplomacy, if we make the efforts to step out of our comfort zone as such, and kind of misconception or preoccupation or familiar territories, then we can indeed find and utilize many new avenues of meaningful cooperation. And you know, veteran like Mr. Hamza Amin went on to say that, you know, this is the first time that actually he's meeting someone from Portugal, and it's no surprise that His Excellency Dr. Andre's visit is one of the first, or if not the first, because both of us actually failed to locate any high-level dignitary ever visited Bangladesh in the past. So we are delighted that since Bangladesh opened its embassy, at least that, you know, and also our 2 subsequent visits from myself and my ministers at the UN Ocean Conference. In a way, such exchange of visits this year is perhaps helping to revive the historic link. You know, Ambassador Sabbir went on to mention just a couple of words, but I know as many as 5,000 words, 5,000 words. And we do actually have a publication. I tried to bring it along here, but I failed. But probably Honorary Consul Mr. Shakwat can help us to locate that that collection of vocabulary, and I think that will be a nice reminder, a pleasing reminder of our history that dates back centuries, as some of you actually mentioned. The Portuguese merchant brought to our land not just languages, but quite a few fruits and vegetables, I was told, and spices that have now become a signature item in our regular cuisine. The Portuguese missionaries spread Christianity in our part of the world, and that's why you know, we have this fantastic institution in Chittagong, in not too far from Dhaka, in Kaliganj, and stone throw away from here at Farmgate. Portuguese centered their business activities obviously in and around Chittagong, which they reportedly call the Grand Port. So it must have been one of the major ports in this part of the world, if not in the world. That's why it was known to the Portuguese as Grand Port. As we look toward the future, we should also keep in mind that these life-affirming aspects of our shared heritage with Portugal. In our present quest of enhancing our bilateral engagement, I would like to lay emphasis on following 5 key areas very quickly before I conclude. First, we have a relatively small yet well-placed Bangladesh community in Portugal. And we say small, but it's growing fast. I remind you that, which is valued for its contribution to the host society and economy. They benefit from the many migrant-friendly policies pursued by the Portuguese government and can act as a bridge for advancing connectivity between our people to people, two peoples. They face certain constraint with regards to, this is a promise for the last time I'm mentioning this, because many of them already mentioned the visa, issues of visa. We have very clear commitment that Mr. Andre and his team is working with the other administrative bodies in Portugal to make their and our life easier. Second, we have many untapped potentials for economic cooperation between our two countries. We believe that there are opportunities for further expanding two-way trade, investment in each other's country. We can work on building complementarities, and from the audience there are suggestions that we facilitate our businesses to come close and through exchanges. And I'm sure your visit will pave the way for such interactions. And while I was visiting Lisbon, I met the port authorities and shipping companies, and we are working on establishing on the possibility of direct shipping, as we have initiated direct shipping between Bangladesh and Chittagong and one of the ports in the Adriatic in Italy. And this will save a lot of time. And as our preparedness gets better in terms of draft in the Chittagong seaport, and once and when this Materbury it starts functioning, I'm sure this will turn into reality. And also we talked about connectivity in digital and air space. Bangladesh should also welcome visible Portuguese investment and expertise in our blue economy, including for exploring the potential of offshore wind power generation. And I think it was Ambassador Sabir mentioned that Portugal produces 60% of their demand from wind or renewable hydro and wind and solar. And the aspiration is in next 3 years or so, they will increase that share to 80%. That will take Portugal right at the top among the European countries in renewable energy. And I'm sure with the commitment that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina laid out during the COP26 and while handing over the CVF Climate Vulnerable Forum's chairmanship, the promises we have made to do away with some planned coal-based power plant and replace them with renewable energy. I'm sure we can find common space for cooperation there, or rather learn from Portugal's experience. Third, we can count on Portugal to speak for Bangladesh within the European Union, and that's very important for this us into that 27 member body. The EU has many competing priorities, and it certainly helps to have a reliable partner within this critically important institution for Bangladesh. And we have covered yesterday that, and Portugal truly appreciates the true usage of the benefits provided by the European Union. Bangladesh is one of the top countries to utilize those benefits for its people and bring changes in their livelihood of 160 million people. We will work together on the new regime that's likely to come in place in European Union as far as EBA is concerned, but we do have quite a few years to play with. And as a nation, we only concluded yesterday a national seminar on LDC graduation, and some of you must have noticed and kept an eye on that as well. Fourth, Our two countries remain aligned on our shared emphasis on multilateralism, which is so important. And the minister made a special point yesterday, and we talked in greater length about the importance and trust that we need to reinstill necessary reform at the UN that's needed. We now have an eminent Portuguese political personality now heading the United Nations. I'm sure all of you well aware that Antonio Guterres. We thank Portugal for acknowledging that Dr. Andre, as Andre said, itself, any regional problems in our present world turn into a global issue, and that the Rohingya crisis now faced by Bangladesh and our region must be addressed as a challenge for the entire international community. We would urge Portugal once again to maintain its voice and support for humanitarian assistance, justice and accountability, and safe and dignified repatriation of the Rohingyas to their homeland. We are thankful to Portugal for its forward-leaning approach to climate action, including for its support for the loss and damage agenda, which is so close to our heart and our existence, to be honest. We look forward to working with Portugal and on conserving and protecting our ocean from climate change impacts, and that's something Portugal helped to reinvigorate during the second UN Ocean Conference earlier this year. We have taken also due note of Portugal's desire to serve UN Security Council for the term 2027-2028, and we have surely going to give a due consideration and make sure that our voices are being represented through a friendly country like Portugal at the highest level at the UN. Fifth and the last, we must continue to invest in people-to-people connectivity between our two countries. I'm pleased that Dr. Andre will be able to explore some natural and historic sites during his very short stay of 72 hours or little less trip to Bangladesh this time. We would remain open to his suggestion on fostering cooperation in tourism sector, and we would be particularly interested in pursuing academic and research collaboration between our two countries with the support of our premier educational institution like BUET and Dhaka University. We have already started some incremental step in that direction. We would invite our relevant stakeholders in the country to come up with concrete proposals that we can also try to facilitate through the diplomatic channel. So we are literally inviting all of you to come and suggest and recommend what else we could do with Portugal. As Dr. Andre has reminded us, our two countries will be celebrating 50 year of our golden jubilee of our diplomatic relationship in 2024. We have agreed to draw up plans from now on to how to commemorate the occasion through befitting manners and events. We have gathered much experience throughout this year on such celebration with a number of friendly countries around the world. These experiences would certainly help us in giving added impetus to our bilateral ties in Portugal. I'm confident that the renewed journey and engagement that we have initiated with Portugal this year will mark the beginning of a mature, vibrant, and multidimensional interface in the years to come. I thank Dr. Andre heartily once again for joining hands with us in that endeavor, and I would like to thank him also. All the very significant and important and thought-provoking questions and ideas that came from the audience, and you took them in good spirit and did your best to respond and take due note for us to help us to do even more deeper and wider in coming days. I also thank you for all of your presence here on this weekend morning, and for all of your participation. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangladesh. May Bangladesh-Portugal relationship live forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable State Minister, for your closing remarks. I mean, it was a very substantive month. We now have, and I'm sure, a long, happy list of areas of cooperation, which, as we move into our 50 years of celebration in 2 years' time, will take a further concrete shape. But I won't linger further. I know Namaz is coming up for Jummah. I would like to thank, on behalf of the Institute, our very learned audience and participants, both in person and online. I would like to thank our Honorable State Minister. I would like to thank particularly our special guest, Dr. Francisco Andre, for coming and visiting the Institute and sharing his thoughts as on to how we take forward our relationship to greater heights. My deepest appreciation to my friend Ambassador Shabir Chaudhry for his participation and his remarks, and also to the entire BIS team who had worked hard to make this event successful. Finally, and most importantly, I would like to thank media, and I'm making sure that my photo also come in the newspaper and the TV for your continued presence and participation, and your presence always makes these events successful and creates a greater understanding across the country of the great things that are being done by the government under the Honorable Prime Minister's leadership. Thank you very much. May I now invite you to have some tea which is served outside. Thank you very much. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu, Bangladesh.